With a lifespan stretching thousands of years, Frieren the Elf Mage has truly been through it all, from having her village and species decimated by the Demon King, to eventually defeating him alongside the legendary hero party of Himmel the Hero, Eisen the Warrior, and Hyder the Priest. She lived a life worthy of legend, and we'll be telling her incredible story from beginning to end, covering over a millennia of pain, joy, and adventure, starting right now. Over 1,000 years before our main story kicks off, Frieren was born into a peaceful elven village where she stood out as the magical MVP who boasted a massive mana pool. Unfortunately, that village was wiped out by a demon general named Basalt the Throne. Frieren barely survived, then pulled a comeback story for the ages by defeating Basalt herself. Then came Flamme, a legendary human mage who scooped Frieren up and became her mentor. Aside from teaching her spells, Flamme also taught her how to mask her mana, which would become a critical trick to outfox demons. And Flamme wasn't just wise, she was scary accurate in predicting Frieren's emotional future. She knew Frieren would one day struggle to understand humans, so she made preparations to help her, even 1,000 years in advance. Flamme introduced Frieren to Seria, her own former master and a fellow elf. Seria was impressed by Frieren's strength, but unimpressed by her relentless obsession with magic, especially when Frieren turned down rare grimoires just to keep chasing knowledge on her own terms. Still, Flamme believed that Frieren would do what even Seria couldn't, take down the Demon King and usher in peace. After Flamme's death, Frieren honored her by using her favorite spell, flower bed magic, to create a living tribute around her grave. Then came the solo arc. Frieren roamed the world, leveling up her magic repertoire and being generally mysterious and immortal. Somewhere in those centuries, she met a lost little boy in the forest, which turned out to be young Himmel, and showed him the flower bed spell. She didn't remember the encounter, but he sure did. It left such an impression that decades later, Himmel tracked her down and asked her to join his hero party. Fast forward years later, Frieren was recruited by Himmel the Hero and joined the hero party as its mage on his quest to take down the Demon King, who resides in his castle in Enda. 10 years of epic battles and unspoken bonds later, they succeeded, returned to the royal capital, and watched the era of Meteors, a phenomenon that occurs once every 50 years. They part ways, promising to meet again in 50 years for their next meteor shower, with Frieren promising to show them the site again at a better viewing location. For the next 50 years, Frieren continues her solo journey for the pursuit of magic, and when their promised reunion comes, Frieren actually shows up, looking the same 50 years ago. Himmel, however, is now old and wrinkly. After retrieving an item that she entrusted to Himmel for safekeeping, they reunite with Hyder and Eisen, with Hyder definitely showing his age too, and the whole crew heads out to the spot Frieren mentioned 50 years ago. There, they watch the era Meteors again, just like old times, reminiscing of their wild journey and all the memories they made along the way. Then Himmel passes away, peacefully. It hits Frieren hard. At his funeral, for the first time, she breaks down crying.
I was aware that human lives are short. But this... Why didn't I try to better know and understand you? My head is still not for patting.
This realization crashes in that even after centuries, she barely got to know the person who called her friend. With her old party now fading into history, Frieren sets out again, not just to learn more magic, but to finally understand the fleeting, beautiful puzzle that is humanity. 20 years after Himmel's death, Frieren drops by to visit Hyder, and that's where she meets Fern, a sharp young mage in training. Hyder's health is fading fast, and he asks her to take Fern under her wing. She declines at first, as she thinks that Fern's not cut out for battle and doesn't want to watch another student die. So Hyder offers her a little side quest, help decode a grimoire about immortality and resurrection, while also training Fern. It's a clever trick, and she agrees. One day, she finds Fern practicing alone by a cliff, determined to blast a rock across the ravine. She sees potential in Fern and even admits Fern's mana control is way beyond her years. Seeing how the kid who actually likes magic, she starts teaching her for real. Over the next 4 years, she trains Fern, who throws herself into magic like her life depends on it. When Hyder collapses, she urges Fern to rest and spend time with him. But Fern refuses. For her, getting stronger is her way of saying thank you. Eventually, she finishes translating the grimoire and realizes there's no resurrection magic, just Hyder's little ruse to keep her around and train Fern before he passed. As his end nears, Frieren finally lets her emotions crack.
No point in feigning courage again, not now. She has been ready to say goodbye to you for a long while. Your only focus before you die should be giving her a proper farewell and making as many memories as you can.
Oh, Frieren, you really are a kind girl.
After he's gone, she offers alcohol at his grave and leaves with Fern, now a capable teen. Years pass. She and Fern take odd jobs across the land, trading spell work for rare grimoires. One day, an old woman asks them to clean a statue of Himmel. Frieren suggests planting blue moon weed since it's Himmel's favorite flower. Turns out they're super rare now, but Frieren insists. They spend half a year searching. When Fern's ready to give up, Frieren finds an entire ceiling of the flowers in an abandoned tower, thanks to some seed rats with a flair for interior design. She plants a flower crown on Himmel's statue and smiles, finally seeing the beauty he once tried to show her. And with that, she and Fern set off again. The pair roll into the bustling city of Warm. At the end, she invites Fern out for sweets and gives her a butterfly hairpin for her 16th birthday. It's a rare moment of vulnerability, and Fern appreciates how hard her mentor is trying to understand her. As they travel on, Frieren opens up more while she's retracing the hero party's journey. In the Grove Forest, she trains Fern, and they end up in a village where an old man leads them to Qual, a demon Frieren sealed away 80 years ago. She admits Qual was too strong for them back then, and now it's time for a rematch. The next morning, she unseals Qual, who attacks with Zoltrak, his own deadly spell. Fern easily blocks it. Turns out it's now basic magic thanks to decades of human innovation. Frieren finishes Qual with a blast of Zoltrak. A year later, Frieren accepted a cleanup job by the Sea of Gron's Channel in the Central Lands. While Fern handles the practical stuff, she reflects on how Himmel's crew tolerated her quirks. They wrap up just in time for the new year, and Fern manages to wake Frieren to watch the sunrise, something she once missed decades ago. Later, they reunite with Eisen in the Burt region and search for Flamme's writings. The trail leads to a book revealing a possible way to talk to the dead, in a place called Aureole, which is allegedly located in Enda, where the Demon King's castle is also located. Frieren sets her sights on it, hoping to see Himmel one last time. The two bid farewell to Eisen and arrive in the Wheeler region, where they learn that the villagers have been disappearing in the mountain pass due to a supposed ghost. Frieren and Fern are passing through the said area when Fern suddenly sees Hyder. Despite knowing that a monster nearby is using magic to create illusions of someone dear to her just to lure her, Fern still hesitates to dispel Hyder's phantom. Meanwhile, Frieren sees a phantom of Himmel and wonders why it isn't Flamme this time. She blasts the phantom with Zoltrak, and Fern did the same to Hyder's phantom. They reach the Regal Canyon, where they find a solar dragon that is keeping a grimoire in its nest. Their plan to defeat the dragon fails, and they proceed to the nearby village to find Eisen's apprentice named Stark, and recruit him as their vanguard. They later learn that Stark is revered as a hero because he was able to drive away the solar dragon 3 years ago when it attacked the village. Stark has stayed in the village since then, and the dragon hasn't appeared since. When they personally meet Stark on a cliffside, Frieren discovers that the village hero isn't as badass as they say. Stark confesses he lacks combat experience, and actually froze in fear when he confronted the solar dragon, which for some reason spared him on a whim. Stark hesitates when Frieren asks for his help to defeat the dragon. The next day, Frieren and Fern return to the cliffside, and Stark finally decides to help him take down the dragon. He makes Frieren promise to slay the dragon if he dies. As they face the dragon, Stark's hands shake in fear, which remind Frieren of Eisen back then. She tells him that he's just like Eisen, who once told her that fear isn't a weakness, but it's what kept him going. Stark bravely faces the dragon, lands a massive hit, and yells for backup. But Frieren didn't do anything, because the dragon's already dead, and she praises him. Stark later decides to join FRIEREN'S party and be their vanguard. The trio continues the journey towards the Northern lands by passing through a barrier in the fortress city of Wall. However, they find out that passage has been prohibited due to threats of monster attacks. They decide to stick around for the meantime while they gather information about alternate passages. And just when things aren't looking up, the Castellan of Wall appears and acknowledges FRIEREN. The Castellan then gives them passage through the barrier, hoping that they can stop the remnants of the Demon King's forces. Along the way, they help a merchant cross a blocked road due to a landslide. After clearing the road, the merchant offers them a ride in his wagon to the nearby town. They arrive to see the town merrily celebrating its annual Liberation Festival to commemorate the hero party who saved the town from demons years ago. As FRIEREN watches people still honoring their victory, she finally starts to see what Himmel meant about memories and legacy. The following morning, the trio leave the town and later find themselves up north in Granat's snowy domain. Things feel off when they got there. Tons of guards, tense vibes, and FRIEREN senses a demon nearby. She tries to roast them on sight, but gets tossed into a dungeon instead. Turns out, demons, led by a guy named Lugnia, are here under the guise of peace talks. But FRIEREN's not buying it. She sees demons for what they are, man-eating manipulators. She tells Fern and Stark a chilling flashback about a childlike demon who tricked everyone into thinking she was remorseful, until she murdered the kind-hearted villager who adopted her. Worse, she even killed the man's daughter. And that was the moment that FRIEREN solidified her belief that you can't negotiate with monsters wearing a human mask. While she's stewing in prison, Lugnier got his own shady plan of dropping the town's protective barrier and let Aura the Guillotine, one of the Demon King's old generals, waltz in and wreck shop. One of Aura's minions, Drat, comes off to FRIEREN and tries to strangle her with a magic wire, only to be sliced up like expired ham by FRIEREN. She escapes and reunites with Fern and Stark. She orders them to fight Lugnia and his partner Linya, while she handles the approaching Aura. She eventually faces Aura for a showdown, and Aura uses the Scales of Obedience spell that forces the weaker being to obey her. Unbeknownst to her, FRIEREN has mastered sealing her aura to look weaker. Once she drops the seal, it boosts her mana, and the Scales of Obedience force Aura to obey her command instead.
Kill yourself. This can't be.
After Fern and Stark finish Lugnia and his accomplice, the town's safe, and Graf Granit thanks FRIEREN for keeping casualties low. After receiving a grimoire, despite knowing it's fake, FRIEREN and her party set off to Oisos after they are informed that they need to take a Magic Association exam that allows mages to obtain a first-class mage license, which is basically a golden ticket to travel across the Northern Plateau, making it a prerequisite if they want to reach Aureole. As they head towards Oisos, they get lost in the snow and Stark nearly freezes. They look out by finding a cabin, and an unexpected guest, Croft, an elf monk who's apparently been doing squats to survive the cold. They end up spending half a year holed up with Croft and later learn that the elf monk was a former warrior who saved the world hundreds of years ago alongside a human priest. But as time passes, their names were forgotten. Once the snow clears, FRIEREN'S party parts ways with Croft and visits the Village of the Sword, home to the legendary hero sword that's still stuck in a stone like something off an Arthurian legend. Later, they celebrate Stark's 18th birthday. Fern gets him a bracelet, while FRIEREN cooks him Hamburg steak. Days later, they rescue a priest named Sign from a swamp. FRIEREN becomes curious about him. He's got mad healing skills, but no real drive. Kinda reminds her of herself before Himmel dragged her out of her comfort zone. She encourages him to chase the dream of becoming an adventurer. After some brotherly drama and a good old slap of emotional clarity, Sign joins the party. His goal is to find his long-lost friend, a guy nicknamed Guerrilla Warrior. With FRIEREN'S party now with 4 members, they set out again on their journey. Then came Fern's birthday, which ended up with Fern and Stark having their first real fight, because Stark forgets her birthday. Sign, now acting as the party's unlicensed therapist, helps them patch things up. Stark finally buys her a bracelet that just so happens to feature a mirrored lotus, a symbol of eternal love. When FRIEREN notices it looks like a ring Himmel once gave to her, it sparks a bittersweet memory.
FRIEREN.
Ah, yes.
Afterwards, the team stumbles into a village cursed by a monster. Everyone passes out from the curse, except for Sign, who manages to wake Frieren just long enough for her to obliterate the creature. At Voish, the last stop before Isis, they met a noble who wants Stark to pretend to be his dead son for a party, just to keep morale up. Frieren agrees, partly for the gold, partly for the grimoires. Stark and Fern clean up nicely, and everything goes smoothly. Stark gets offered a cushy life as a fake noble's son, but turns it down. Before reaching the city, they stop by a village where Frieren visits Old Man Vol, a dwarf friend who once vowed to protect the town for his late wife. He trains Stark and spends time reminiscing with Frieren. She notices his mind is slipping, but promises to remember him, just like she does with her old companions. Finally, Sign gets a lead on Guerrilla Warrior, but it's in a different direction. After some soul searching, he parts ways with the party. Down to 3 members once again, Frieren's party arrives in Oishus just in time for Frieren and Fern to take the first-class Mage Exam. On the way, they chat about how rare first-class mages are and how brutal the exam is. Fern's feeling the pressure, thinking she might not cut it, but Frieren casually drops that she's lost the exam 11 times, even to people with less mana than her. Once in the city, they sign up for the exam and spend 2 months prepping. Come exam day, Frieren gets teamed up with 2 bickering childhood friends, Lavigne and Kana, while Fern gets paired with Ubel, a slightly terrifying mage with murder goblin vibes, and the more level-headed Lond. The first test is to catch a Stilla, a super speedy bird that makes cheetahs look lazy. Frieren's group struggles because Lavigne and Kana are too busy arguing to work together, until Frieren realizes that, weirdly, their chaotic friendship gives them excellent teamwork. After saving Kana from a monster, Frieren learns that Kana sticks with Lavigne because she pushes her to be better, even if she's annoying about it. Using water magic and some strategic mana placement, they lured the Stilla into a trap. Meanwhile, Fern's squad catches their own Stilla early, but then they get ambushed by another team. Fern goes off and overwhelms Yetta with relentless magic and precision. Verbal defeats Ubel, but his hesitation gives Fern the opening to save her. Just as things start to calm down, another party tries to jack Frieren's team's Stilla. Dinkin, a sharp veteran mage, realizes Frieren is that legendary elf from the hero's party and sends his teammate Richter to take her down. Frieren ends up battling Dinkin directly, and despite his powerful spells, she wins by getting up close and blasting him. Richter, about to finish off Kana and Lavigne, get blasted with water magic thanks to Kana, who uses the rain Frieren caused by destroying the exam's protective barrier. After a short break, it's time for the second test. Proctored by Zenza, a pacifist mage with 0 tolerance for violence, the goal is simple: reach the bottom of a dangerous dungeon. Anyone who uses the escape golem bottle fails. Oh, and the dungeon is filled with mimics and mirror monsters that create perfect replicas of the participants. Zenza decides to tag along with Frieren and Fern, likely curious about how someone as famously powerful as Frieren operates. While exploring, Frieren keeps falling for mimic traps, because even ancient elf mages aren't immune to shiny loot.
There's a valuable grimoire inside this chest. That's what my many, many years of experience as a mage tells me.
Get me out! It's wet and terrifying in here! Not to mention dark! I can't take it!
I'm starting to think I chose the wrong people to follow.
Trouble hits when Dinkin's group runs into a replica of Frieren. Spiegel, the dungeon's memory-reading monster, is crafting clones based on people's experiences. Fern and Frieren strategize with the others, realizing that the only way to stop the respawning replicas is to take out the Frieren clone and then the Spiegel itself. Fern reveals Frieren's one weakness. When casting magic, she can't detect mana. That's the opening they need. Fern and the real Frieren face off against the clone. Fern lands a big hit with her Zoltrock, but it's not enough. Still, Frieren anticipated this and turns the fight into a grind. Eventually, Fern creates an opening and Frieren finishes off her replica. They smash the Spiegel. Test is passed. The dungeon is cleared. On to the next phase. But the final test isn't a battle, it's an interview. Sedia, the terrifyingly powerful and extremely picky head of the Mage Association, shows up personally to judge who's worthy. She basically eyeballs each candidate and instantly fails anyone she doesn't vibe with. Kana, out for being too soft. Laufin, Ied, and Schwarf also out. Frieren also failed. Syria says that she's not interested in combat magic. Fern walks in next, and Syria immediately notices her insane mana control. She even offers to take Fern as a student, but Fern hardly refuses, as she only wants to travel with Frieren. Surprisingly, Syria respects that and passes her. The rest of the results trickle in. Dinkin, Metura, Verbal, Land, and Ubel all pass. Everyone else has to wait 3 more years. When the exams are over, the crew chills in the city for a bit. Cydia is not thrilled about how many people passed and bans Frieren from mage buildings for the next 1,000 years. As they leave the city, Frieren asks Fern what spell she requested, with her new first-class privileges. Fern asks for a spell to clean clothes. On the way out, Kana and Levine say their goodbyes. Fern thinks the farewell is too quick, but Frieren remembers Himmel once saying that goodbyes shouldn't be too heavy, since they might meet again, and it'd be awkward if they cried the first time. And just like that, Frieren and the gang are off again, heading towards Enda. With Fern's shiny new mage credentials, they're all set to traverse the treacherous Northern Plateau and set their sights on Aureole. Their journey kicks off in the Somme marshes, where Frieren stumbles upon a magic nullifying crystal. Before they know it, the ground gives way, and the trio find themselves in a cave teeming with these crystals. And as if that wasn't enough, a venomous apex dragon crashes their impromptu camping trip. Frieren uses the magic nullifying crystal and combines it with her mana to blind the dragon, allowing them to escape the cave and continue their journey north. They end up in the Great Samt Forest, where a fork in the road leads to Neutral Harbor or the Northern Plateau. At a nearby inn, they reunite with Verbal, Ere, and Schwarf. Verbal tries to recruit Stark for a demon-slaying mission, but Stark declines, revealing his past struggles and how Fern's support kept him going. Frieren's party rolls in a Fable village, where they're handed a seemingly random request to polish a hero statue. Fern and Stark are expecting to be Himmel, but it turns out to be the statue of the Hero of the South. Frieren explains that the Hero of the South wrecked the Demon King's front lines, took down 3 of the terrifying 7 stages of destruction, and even soloed the Demon King's confidant named Schlatt, the Omniscient. As they're cleaning the statue, Frieren flashes back to when she actually met him, way back before she joined the hero's party. Turns out he has the ability to see the future. He told her he'd die in a year, and later gave Frieren a little peek into her future too. He told her that a young hero would soon visit her, and she ended up taking down the Demon King with him. He also told her about his dying wish, which is to pass along the message that he'll blaze a trail to the future, even if no one remembers his name. As Frieren finishes polishing his statue, she reflects that the guy did leave a mark, even if it wasn't in the history books. The trio moved on to Graf Doc's domain next, but instead of nostalgia, Frieren is less than thrilled to revisit the place. The current Graf ropes them into a banquet and throws in a request to recover an heirloom stolen by a demon. The search leads them to a village in ruins. A priestess invites them to pray for the lost villagers. Suspicious of the villagers' disappearance, Frieren blasts a grave open to reveal that there were no bodies in there, and it's because the priestess is actually the demon who ate all the villagers. The demon gets dealt with, the sword's recovered, and Frieren earns a grimoire that turns red apples green. Their next stop is in the Etwas Mountains to search for a secret hot spring. On the way, they slay a 3-headed dragon, only to find the spring is a glorified foot bath. Eventually, they return to the fortified city of Heiss, and here's where things get a bit more shoujo than usual. Fern, feeling a bit overlooked, agrees to go on a date with Stark. With some guidance from Frieren, Stark plans it out. It's awkward, it's sweet, it's painfully earnest, and in the end, it brings them closer. Once they set off again, the party crosses into the Nachrith region on their way to the Northern Plateau, where they're attacked by monsters. They crash at a cabin where a villager asks them to slay yet another monster. Stark wonders why they don't just move somewhere safer, but the guide tells them that this land holds his family's memories. After finishing the job, Stark jokes about just sailing past this whole nightmare, but Frieren gently reminds him of Himmel's ideals, protecting homes that aren't your own. That quiet little message hits both Stark and Fern. No shortcuts, no skipping the hard parts. Later, they bump into a dwarf named Foss in the Bier region. They help him retrieve a legendary alcoholic drink that ends up tasting like the biggest disappointment. Still, mission accomplished. Finally, they arrive in the Norm Company territory, where FRIEREN'S past catches up with her. Apparently, she forgot about a 300-year-old debt, and with interest, she's now broke and sentenced to mine labor for 300 years. But plot twist, the mine sentence is actually a sneaky plan. Norm knew FRIEREN would sniff out silver ore and revitalize the broken supply chains of the Northern Plateau, which had been wrecked by demon activity. Without help, people would starve. She finds the silver, saves the day, and reunites with Fern and Stark. FRIEREN'S party continues their journey through the Northern Plateau when they receive a subjugation request. A village in the Rufin region had been decimated by a demon attack, and our heroes are on the case. Upon arrival, they bump into some familiar faces. Genau, a proctor from the first-class Mage Exam, and Matilda, one of the examinees. The culprit behind the village destruction is none other than Revolte, a demon general with a flair for the dramatic. Picture this, a towering figure with 2 pairs of arms, wielding 4 magically forged swords that can change weight at will. Oh, and did we mention that he's part snake from the waist down? Revolte isn't just brawn, he's got brains too. He understands human behavior well enough to exploit it, often using psychological tactics to unnerve his opponents. He recognized Genau as a partner of a mage he had previously killed, using this knowledge to provoke emotional turmoil. As the battle unfolds, Matilda showcases her magical prowess by casting Artefacta, a spell that dispels fog, giving her and Fern a tactical advantage. Ever the sharpshooter, Fern takes down a demon with a long-range Zoltrak shot, impressing even the stoic FRIEREN. Meanwhile, Genau and Stark face off against Revolte. Despite Revolte's initial advantage, the duo manage to destroy his swords, but Revolte isn't done yet. He reveals that his hands are just as deadly. In a display of brute strength, he continues the fight, but teamwork and determination see Genau and Stark through victory, despite sustaining fatal injuries. After Stark has fully recovered from his wounds, Genau thanks FRIEREN'S party as he and Matilda take their leave. FRIEREN and her crew also went on their way. After a bunch of quests and side adventures involving slaying dragons for silly spells and flipping pancakes like a pro, FRIEREN'S party eventually gets tangled up in the mystery of the Golden Land and a very complicated demon named Macht. 50 years ago, Macht, one of the 7 stages of destruction, turned an entire region into pure indestructible gold. You'd think that was a get-rich-quick scheme, but nope. The gold is so magical and unworkable that it's basically useless. The Golden Land is sealed off by a magic barrier, and Dinkin, who just became a first-class mage, is put in charge of maintaining it. He wants to undo the spell and free the land from this golden curse. FRIEREN thinks that that's a terrible idea. Macht is one of the few beings that she straight up lost to in the past, and she doesn't think that anyone stands a chance. But after remembering Himmel's unwavering belief in trying the impossible, she changes her mind and decides to help. And while she can't bring herself to say that there's a clear path to victory against Macht, she agrees to help Dinkin analyze the demon's memories because somewhere in there might be a clue. Despite being a powerful demon, Macht doesn't really understand human emotions. No guilt, no malice, none of the usual spicy stuff that fuels villainy. After one priest pities him for his emotional emptiness and promptly gets killed by Macht, the demon starts wondering if something's wrong with him. Thus begins his weird existential crisis. So obviously, his solution is to keep killing until he feels something. He later meets another demon, named Solitar, who basically tells him they'll never understand humans. Macht doesn't entirely buy that though. He thinks that maybe, if demons could learn human emotions, they could coexist. Enter Gluck, a noble from the City of Wise. Macht ambushes his carriage and is about to kill him, but Gluck just calmly lights a cigarette and starts chatting. Macht is intrigued. Gluck then offers a deal, help him clean up political corruption in Weiss, and in return, he will teach Macht about justice and evil. Macht agrees, and he gradually integrates into the city as a magical advisor. He gains public trust, defeats threats, and even becomes a magic teacher. Specifically, he trains a young boy named Dinkin. Eventually, the townspeople get nervous about having a demon hanging around and demand that Macht be fitted with the Stone Bracelet of Servitude, a magical shackle that lets humans control demons. Macht agrees without protest and continues to serve the city peacefully for years. Then one day, Macht had a conversation with an aging Gluck and told him of his desire to turn the city of Weiss into gold. He thought killing people he had grown close to might finally trigger the elusive emotion of guilt and malice. Surprisingly, Gluck accepts his decision after saying his final words, and is transmuted into gold along with the entire city. Cydia shows up and tells him to undo his magic, but he can't, literally, because he doesn't understand humans well enough to even imagine turning people back from gold. His curse is irreversible. Cydia then enclosed the entire city of gold with a powerful barrier, including Macht within it. Macht's memory dive wraps up just as Frieren and Dinkin finish their initial analysis. But Frieren isn't done. She goes deeper into the memories and pushes her mana to the limit. She ends up so drained that she can't even move, and Fern has to take care of her. Meanwhile, out at the Great Barrier of the Golden Land, Solitar shows up and smashes right through it like it's made of tissue paper. She strolls up to Macht and casually offers to help him with his experiment. Dinkin makes the call to evacuate the settlement. Fern and Stark volunteer to stay behind and stall Solitar while Frieren is still knocked out. The battle kicks off with Solitar casually chatting while absolutely wrecking Fern and Stark. Fern figures out that she can actually hurt her by cranking up her magical density. Still, they're both seriously injured. Dinkin sees the situation escalate and decides to stay back too. He tells the villagers to get Frieren to safety and confronts Macht directly. Macht reveals his plan to erase anyone who knows him so he can start fresh, but Dinkin's not having it. Their battle feels like a flashback to their old training days, only now Dinkin's magic is on another level. He hits Macht with a nasty surprise, Curse Reversal Magic, which starts turning Macht into gold. Macht begins to undo it, so Dinkin stays locked in, ready for round 2. Meanwhile, Solitar's mana blades injure Fern and Stark badly. Macht uses Diagoza and turns Fern and Stark into gold instantly. Dinkin makes a snap decision of dropping his protection spell and letting himself be turned to gold too, to buy time for Frieren. While golden, Dinkin dreams of his wife, who reminds him he's never backed down before. Frieren eventually nullified Diagoza, restoring him and the others. Frieren tells Macht his dream of coexistence is doomed, and it's time to pay the price. But Dinkin steps in as he wants to settle things with Macht himself, so Frieren goes toe-to-toe with Solitar. Eventually, after a brutal fight, Macht and Dinkin reach a draw, with both sustaining fatal wounds. Just then, Frieren uses her magic to restore the entire city of Wise back from gold. Heavily wounded, Macht realizes Solitar is dead, and as he walks around the restored city with oblivious citizens greeting him as nothing happened, he then finds Gluck, now back as he was before, and shares a quiet, bittersweet goodbye. Dinkin shows up, and Gluck tells him to put Macht out of his misery. Dinkin delivers the final blow, and as Macht fades, Gluck calls him his partner in crime, and says he really did enjoy their time together. As their journey continues, Frieren and her party arrived at the Kino Pass, where they hit a roadblock. Literally. There's a 3-week wait at the Empire border. With nothing else to do, Frieren decides to visit the old monument of the goddess, a nostalgic spot she once went to with the hero party. But the moment she touches the ruins, she's sent flying back in time. 53 years in the past to be exact. 7 years after her adventure with Himmel and the hero party. While the hero party is making their way back from the monument, they stumble across a group of dead Imperial soldiers. A demon named Zart shows up, clearly stirred by Frieren's time warp. Things escalate fast. Zart teleports Frieren into the sky, back in a time where her usual tricks like flight magic aren't so reliable. But she manages a safe landing. With her help, the team corners Zart. He tries to drop a mountain chunk on them, but Frieren unleashes her full power, annihilates the rock, defeats Zart, and casually reveals that she's from the future. Now they know what's up. The hero party shift focus into getting Frieren back to her own time. They hit a few dead ends at the mage guilds, churches, and monasteries, all while doing odd jobs and battling monsters like humanoid wolves and a full-blown abyssal dragon. Eventually, they meet a dwarven blacksmith named Kaisel, who recognizes Himmel's sword as a fake, because he forged it. But after seeing Himmel's resolve to keep using it, Kaisel simply sharpens it and points them towards his old village, which may hold clues. Of course, it's overrun with monsters. The party clears them out and finally scores a win. Frieren finds a scripture that mentions the goddess monument and a chapter called The Time-Traveling Bird, exactly what she needs to get back. Frieren wants to return ASAP, and the party promises to carve the spell into the monument to help the future Frieren, after they beat the Demon King. On the way back, they're ambushed by demons led by Solitar. Eisen duels one of them, while the rest fall into a powerful illusion spell. Inside the illusion, Himmel and Frieren are about to get married, until they snap out of it just in time to save Hyder from their opponent. Solitar then orders a retreat, and Frieren makes it to the monument. Later, the past Frieren wakes up to see her comrades around a campfire. Himmel remarks that she seems to have safely returned, leaving Frieren confused with what he said. Back in the present, Frieren finds herself in front of the monument with Fern and Stark, who had no idea of her time-traveling adventure since barely any time has passed over. Frieren's party marches north and ends up in Bonnet Village, just in time for the Empire's Liberation Festival. It's an annual celebration marking the Demon King's defeat, so naturally the village is buzzing. The gang joins in, and Frieren decides to pay her respects at a statue of her old hero buddy Himmel, but something's off. The statue looks nothing like the real Himmel. Stark's a little weirded out, but Frieren shrugs it off. The villagers believe in the image they built, and it's not hurting anyone. From there, the group travels deeper into the Farba region, where they stumble across a village that has been getting wrecked by monsters along the highway. One of the villagers asks them to slay these monsters, and offers a creepy little jar that causes nightmares as payment. Frieren agrees, as expected. On their way to fight the monster, she talks about the once great empire. Back in the day, it was the pinnacle of magic civilization, but war with demons cut it off from the world, and it faded into legend. After wiping out the highway monsters, the gang earns their spooky jar and spots a statue of Flamme on their way out. That sparks a flashback to when Flamme introduced young Frieren to the Imperial Mages. The next stop is in the ruins of Titan's fortress. Frieren shares that this place once belonged to the army family, who were warriors first, nobles second. While exploring, they run into Count Army himself, literally wrestling monsters in the wild. He offers a spell that keeps you warm in exchange for their help in retrieving treasure beneath the fortress. The trio battle through, and even when a tough monster shows up, Frieren insists the spell isn't trivial. It reminds her of Flamme's words that magic is a gift passed down, even if you never master it all. They defeat the beast, test out the cozy spell on Stark, and move on. Later, in the Horan region, the party hits up a town on Stark's birthday. Fern gives him a pair of new gloves, while Frieren surprises him with hamburger steaks. Their next adventure takes them to a quiet village in the Off-Guard Federation, where they meet Revolte, the sweet old mayor. But Frieren gets a weird vibe. This guy's got warrior hands instead of farmer hands. Turns out, she's right to be suspicious. Revolte is a retired assassin from a secret group called the Shadow Warriors, and he's got one last mission: kill Frieren, who is actually the last one on their list. Revolte ambushes them at night, takes Stark out cold, and corners Frieren. But thanks to some slick teamwork, the trio turn the tables. Revolte surrenders and reflects on his past, his assassination family, their fake village lives, and how love pulled him out of that world. As the last surviving member of his assassin family, he still clings to a mission long past his time. Frieren tells him it's okay to let go, and just like that, he heads home, to his real family. In a quiet forest village, Aureole shows up at Lan's place. Lan hangs out with her for a bit before he slips out the window to escape. He decides to leave the village for good, and heads to his grandmother's grave for a proper goodbye. But Aureole tracks him down and asks about his past. After his parents died, he lived with his grandmother, and for some mysterious reason, the Magic Special Forces were constantly after them. When he got accepted into a magic school in the Imperial capital, his aging grandmother didn't want to be alone, so Lan made a nearly perfect clone of himself to stay with her. She eventually passed away peacefully, and 5 years later, Lan was tethered to the village. Using his clones to participate in high-level magic stuff like the first-class Mage Exam without ever stepping outside. When Aureole finally drops the real reason she came, she needed a partner for a mission ordered by the Continental Magic Association, and Lan's her top pick. Meanwhile, in Iceberg, the Imperial capital, first-class mages Zenza and Fausch brief Frieren's party on the mission of protecting Seria during the upcoming National Foundation Festival. The first-class mage squad includes Fern, Aureole, Lan, and the two briefers themselves. To prep, Aureole and Lan sneak into the Fancy Nobles event and retrieve a letter from Lenil, a spy for the Magic Association. The letter outlines an assassination plot, with the two barely retrieved before the Magic Special Forces get suspicious. On the run, Lan drops some unsettling lore about secret anti-mage agencies, including the Shadow Warriors, the Holy Wand Court, and the Magic Special Forces. Things escalate when Nu, a Special Forces mage, crushes Lan's clone and corners Aureole. He threatens to kill her unless the real Lan shows himself. Lon steps in and both are taken into custody by Nu and his partner Weg. As they're hauled off in a steel carriage, Zenza and Fausch find out what happened but decide to bide their time. FRIEREN'S party continues their undercover patrol, disguised as shoppers. Turns out they're being watched by Lo, the Governor General of Lorbir of North. Lo is later seen recruiting a shadow warrior named Shrit to alert the others on a mission. Shrit relays the message to her fellow shadow warriors, which includes Wolf the barkeeper, Iris the liquor shop poster girl, Routine the librarian, Sister Lure, Father Clementis, Werlos the vagrant, and Gazelle the stallholder. Back in interrogation land, Kanone, vice captain of the Magic Special Forces, tries to flip Gluck. She wants him to pin the blame on his partner Macht, but Gluck stands firm. He even figures out Kanone's captain must be Franz, a mage Macht once warned him about. Later, Lon and Ubel pull off a slick jailbreak. Even though Ubel's mana detection is still jammed, she slices through Lon's restraints. They use a decoy to distract Nu, and when Kanone finds them, Ubel slices the entire tower open with her ribbon magic, forcing Kanone to save the town instead of chasing them. Elsewhere, Dinkin has a cryptic convo with the librarian Routine. While all this is happening, the Shadow Warriors finalize their assassination plan. Shrit suspects Lo once killed a great mage, which would mean he's capable of imagining Syria's death, which is essential for assassination in this magic system. As the warriors split into pairs, Routine and Iris sneak into the castle, overheard by Fausch. Gazelle drinks at Wolf's bar and pays off his tab with FRIEREN'S silver coin, unknowingly revealing his location to her tracking spell. FRIEREN'S got eyes on him, but her party also realize that they're being watched. Sign arrives in Iceberg looking for someone named Gorilla. He saves a cat and then gets roped into FRIEREN'S mess when Stark takes an arrow from a long-distance magic sniper. Sign heals him just in time and rejoins their team. Now aware of their enemy's tactics, FRIEREN'S party fights back. Fern takes down Lore using a sneak attack mid-fireworks show. Meanwhile, Ubel and Lon regroup with Zenza and hand over the intel from Lanil. Cydia finally arrives in Iceberg. The squad learns of their enemies are none other than the Shadow Warriors, a rogue agency that used to serve the Empire before they went too far and got disbanded. But apparently, they're back. Sign spots a familiar name in the warrior profiles, Gorilla, and he realizes that he's now going by Werlos the Vagrant. Meanwhile, Werlos confirms old escape routes are still usable, and his teammates prep for the final showdown. As everyone gears up for the grand ball, FRIEREN'S team blends in. Lond and Ubel are benched as they're still too high after their recent escape.